Nasa isang event ako sa Manila at may nagtanong sa akin na, "So what do you do, Paris?" Napakasimple lang naman ng tanong, "Anong ginagawa mo sa buhay?" I wanted to answer, "I'm a content creator. I am rebuilding my business in Bohol. I am now trying real estate." I had answers. Marami actually. But honestly, none of them feel complete. Kaya I answered, dati akong nag-work sa BPO. The truth is, I used my old identity because who I am today, I don't think it would sound impressive enough. Kaya hanggang sa pag-uwi ko dito sa Bohol, dala-dala ko yung question na yun. Sino na nga ba ako after gumuho ng buhay na binuo ko dito sa Bohol? Maybe I struggled because for most of my adult life, I never had to ask myself who I was. I worked in BPO for over 15 years, so I exactly knew how to introduce myself. But for when you leave a career that shaped your entire life, there is there is a part of starting over that people rarely talk about. The space between losing the person you used to be and becoming someone new. I built my identity around work, pressure, responsibility, and survival. At some point, hindi mo na siya napapansin because you don't just have a job. You become the job. Yung buong buhay mo umikot na sa work mo. And I know some people will understand this because if you're an OFW or you're a BPO employee, you don't wake up every day and ask yourself, sino nga ba ako today? As a breadwinner, you wake up asking, ano ang kailangan kong gawin? Because when people depend on you, your identity becomes simple. You are useful, you are needed, you are strong, and para sa akin, for a very long time, it felt enough. But the dangerous thing about being needed for so long is that you start confusing pressure with purpose. You start confusing exhaustion with importance, and you start confusing survival with identity. And then one day, when you lose the job, when you leave your career at wala ka munang maibigay, biglang tatahimik yung mundo mo. Not because peaceful na siya, but because you begin to feel alone. Parang hindi na ako useful, parang hindi na ako needed, and sa totoo lang nakakapanghina yun. And at the same time, nakakagigil siya. Kasi deep down inside, gusto mong patunayan na may halaga ka pa din. Kasi kung nakasalalay yung identity ko sa kaya kong ibigay, ano ng pagkatao ko ngayon? When you leave a high-paying job, especially after everything that happened to me, merong silent pressure na gusto mong patunayan na tama yung decision mo, na okay ka, na malakas kang nilalang, na moving forward ka. Kahit ang totoo, may mga araw na gusto mo nang sumuko. For a while, I wasn't really rebuilding. I was just trying to survive what happened. Nung medyo kinaya-kaya ko nang lumaban ulit, I started moving. I started creating content. I even rediscovered Bohol. I started rebuilding my business. I even tried real estate. From the outside, it can look like a beautiful rebuilding story. There are days when I wake up and I don't know what role I'm supposed to play. Am I an entrepreneur? Am I a content creator? Am I still a leader? Or I am just pretending to be someone from my past because I don't know who I am becoming yet? And sometimes I ask myself something I don't want to admit. Am I really rebuilding my life here in Bohol? Or am I just failing beautifully on camera? But here's the paradox of not knowing who you are. It will make you desperate. Desperate to find another title. Yung gigil ka to find another title so you can confidently introduce yourself to other people. Kaya ako kapag may opportunity, gusto ko siyang kunin. Lahat parang gusto kong subukan because every opportunity feels like it could finally answer the question, so what do you do, Paris? I wanted to say na I'm a successful businessman now. I'm a content creator. I'm a full-time content creator. Basta may title na hindi ko ikakahiya kapag may nagtanong ulit. And there's nothing wrong with trying. There is nothing wrong with needing money. And there is nothing wrong with rebuilding your career. But as I am sharing my thoughts with you right now, I am beginning to understand that there is a difference between the life that you're rebuilding and desperately collecting identities because you're just afraid of having none. Because what if sobrang determined akong patunayan na tama ang paglipat ko sa Bohol, na eventually I recreate the same pressure I was trying to escape? What if I turn content creation into another job that will eventually consume me? What if I rebuild my business pero susukatin ko naman ang worth ko based on how much I can provide? And what if after everything, I end up building another life na balang araw kailangan ko na namang takasan? Kasi you can become productive again, you can be useful again, needed again, pero ang ending, completely lost pa rin. So, who am I now? I wish I could end this episode by telling you that I finally know who I am, but I don't. What I do know is that I lost the person I used to be, and the person I am becoming hasn't arrived yet. And maybe for now, itong honesty na to is the beginning of my homecoming. For most of my life, I thought homecoming meant returning with something to show. Money, success, and proof that all sacrifices were all worth it. But maybe homecoming is not about returning as the person everyone expected you to become. Maybe it's having the courage to stay even when you no longer recognize yourself, to stop searching for the person you used to be, and to finally make room for the person you are still becoming. This is not the end of my rebuilding story. This is just the beginning of our homecoming series. Kaya sa'yo na nanonood ngayon, you don't need to know who you are becoming before you allow yourself to begin again.